Hi, this is Dr. Justina Agnieszka. In prior video I described two ways in which we actually build our communication skills and perception of universe every day. And those are by obtention of information from the outside, in which, especially in unknown situations or in situations in which a lack of familiarity with others or lack of possibility to communicate in person with curious mind and open to the other person's forms of expression, while respecting self, meaning having sense of self and knowing who self is, and not intending to draw analogies to the other person's connections, because that sometimes creates very strong aversion and, like I said, becomes perceived as ridicule or curses or lack of respect. When we try to, for example, mimic a mother of an adult person by nicknames, and that person does not wish for that, we violate in fact sacred relationship, and then we are because of that rejected, and we wonder why that is. It is because that relationship is intimate. Second common maneuver that we do is actually not mimicking but implying, in lack of intent to get to know a person, that a person is in possession of the exact same or a cluster of vocabulary as known connections. And so we often, remotely and in person, we fear, because knowing the other person's better, we fear that the other person is just like that, or we act on it, which is very bad. And that is why we need to understand we all have discriminative. What does this mean? Discriminative means selection of vocabulary as it arrives, capacity to choose which words we are going to assimilate as own and which words we are not going to assimilate as own, and vocabulary from conception till whatever period of time a person is stable toward the past and grows towards the future. It means that it is not possible, if we got it wrong, to do anything but harm actually a person, imposing or implying on a person as if an extrapolation of thought process, vocabulary, and sometimes maturity of family member or friends or others. And that is what some call afterwards broadcasted thoughts, or struggle to be able to express self and to have an inner monologue, and struggle to express it in writings that is sometimes as if we are forced out of typing or writing to write typos. I just noticed that I wrote a typo in one of the titles of the emails. It happens and we don't notice it when persons guess what we are writing, and then it is okay to not so much even apologize for those typos, but to remark that those typos are actually, they do not express often more than a preassumption of what that person that is receiving emails thinks, that is not true to reality. And that happens to children often, and it is sometimes called dyslexia, but it is not actually dyslexia. It is interconnection, as you may, between what is a divination and what are facts. So that in Buddhist mind theories is called monkey's brain, and we all have it. Every single person has it, parallel to, but at the same time existing, to inner monologue expressed in inner guided thoughts and in writings and in other things that we intend to. So there are two characteristics. We intend to convey a message, and when there is a mistake, we self recognizes it as a mistake and corrects it, as opposed to another, and that is then not possible when the environment is hostile or it is actually unknown. When the environment is hostile or unknown, and that happens when changing often regions or countries, especially countries, persons guess based on known connections and imply immediately who you are. And that causes distress and suppresses thoughts, and the same is in homecomings. Persons, for instance, who are siblings or long not seen parents, friends, etc., guess based on persons who are left behind what the other one is like, and guess wrongly because life leaves non-stop learning to all of us, and we non-stop selectively pre-choose which one we want to use as own and which one we just learn as information about universe or information about a given person, depending on what kind of relationship and information we want to pursue. And that is why it is important to know, excuse me, but first of all, that not all positive emotions at all, in fact about 99% of all good emotions, impressions, and also bodily impressions are asexual. And therefore, for sure, and insinuating otherwise, and to teach as such children also, is cause of social distancing, the same as pursuit of such non-stop in your mind, in fear of being pursued sexually. And that distancing and guessing non-stop what the other one is like, or implying that the other one has knowledge about mind from a divinations or that monkey's brain arriving to self, is wrong, because we get only pieces and bits and analogies from that mind. And only if a person in person confirms 100%, yes, it is so. I also thought that when you thought that I said that word, for instance, though it was in a different context, all of these happen. But you see, unless that person confirms, corroborates, I do use that word often, or I do use that word at times, or this is how I think, this is how I don't think, we do no more than guessing based on other person's stories and based on other person's extrapolated models. I want to add here something very interesting. Sometimes we talk about genetic tendencies. That is a fiction. Those genetic tendencies, in a grand majority, in general, are fiction. This is English language from a physician, and so you will get that part too. It is not true, for example, because I'm an expert in behavior, that a person's preset DNA, a genetic code, contains information of a mother to an extent of repeating the same patterns, or a father or a sibling, including language and situations. It is because certain persons live closer or in an environment of a parent, sibling, or friends, that those persons gather from that person information and try to impose and imply, sometimes on non-consciated level, meaning we do that like as if on an autopilot, what the other one did to that person or is like as if that person was the same. And that, under huge pressure sometimes against resistance, creates a need for repeating or being the same as someone else against own volition. And that indeed causes then changes in genetic code, but this is an environment, and I repeat, it is a continuum, because a human being, like the same as no other creature, is in vacuum. So it is what we do and what the ecosystem does that changes that DNA, and when we stop harassing, whatever is averted against, and that person does not feel like being, for instance, insinuated that she or he are like, I don't know, X number of persons they went to one classroom with, or persons they worked with, or mother, father, or whoever, including habits. Forcing, for instance, based on a country of origin, on me, Polish sausage. You know, I'm a Buddhist, I don't like Polish sausage. I mean, I like the taste of it, the spices of it, but I don't like killing anything. And I don't like it when persons serve me something that suffered. So I will eat it when it actually saves life by, calculation of scarcity. But otherwise, I don't like it. In fact, this is how I am, and I'm not gonna change it. You see, but when I interact with persons from the same origins, including parents, by rage at times, I am forced to consume meat because that's what mother does. My mother used to do. And often that impression of being imposed and implied non-stop that one is the same as a parent, that leads to forceful pretending to be a parent, while chosen things are those that cause joy and are presented as joyful. And so we need to know that we cannot enforce also things like victimship. There is a common misconception that is presented in medical school lectures, and that is pertinent to language also. Victimship that is implied because of abuse towards a mother, while the daughter or daughters were not abused, is false. What we use as a statement is the females from houses where father was abusive, violent physically towards the mother, pursue the same type of men or relationships. False. What happens is that males who approach females from such houses to intend to win over the female do what the mother obtained as so-called art of seduction. And so if that in family was beating up, throwing and shoving against walls to rape, males, despite not having such instincts, will use trigger vocabulary and will mimic, sometimes without even knowing the family, the behavior of a male who abused the mother, hoping that the sexuality model of the daughter in admiration to that father will bring the same admiration and love for that man. And that is dangerous. It creates potent resentment towards those males, and that's how males quickly, like my brother described my ex-sister-in-law, short ball, get rejected based on one word from the father's vocabulary directed at violent abuse of the mother, regardless of the sexual outcomes, because most of the time in families from cold regions where diet is based on meat, persons are nicknamed as animals and beat one another up instead of having sex in progression of time 100% of the times. And so persons, all of us who experience that, we have lower threshold of tolerance. And it means a man who is unlike 100% father When mother is usually contempted upon expecting sometimes the same low level, sometimes it's called envy, of self-respect and aversion towards violence. Man who mimics father's behavior is immediately rejected. And that applies to all victims. So remember, it is the other way around. Males mimic behavior of the father in hopes for the same love of daughter or higher, not female mimics it.